Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So, this story, or I guess multiple stories, happened not only to me, but also to my roommates that I lived with. I lived with 3 of my friends in university, and this was around the time of the pandemic, so, you know, there was more, I guess, like, negative or, like, sad vibes, which I think attribute to why this happened to us. First things first, when we moved in, our one roommate, he was living in the basement, and he said that he found this, like, storage room with a mirror inside of it, and on the mirror was written from the past tenants, "Good luck with the ghost," or, like, "Have fun with the ghosts." And so we were like, okay, I guess stuff has happened here. I don't know, maybe it's just a joke, because the house that we were living in was passed down from other people in our same program, so, like, you know, maybe they were just being dramatic. And for, like, the first year-ish, nothing was really going on. And then came, like, the springtime, and we all started having these experiences. The most common thing that was happening to us was that we were hearing our name being called by a voice that sounded like a girl, maybe like a girl in her 20s, so we thought that it was just, like, one of us calling each other's names. But then whenever one of us would respond, like, yeah, or what, there'd be no response. So then we would go up to whoever was home and be like, hey, was that you? And the answer was always no. So we were like, okay, we're all hearing our name being called. There was even one time where our one friend who lives in the basement, he had someone over, he heard his name being called, and he yelled, "What?" And then his friend next to him said, "Why'd you do that?" And then he said, "Didn't you hear that my name was called?" And she said, "No." So that was, like, the first batch of experiences. The second thing, which kind of terrified me, but for some reason, like, I didn't run. Like, I guess I am the stupid person in the horror movie. But it was, like, 2 a.m. because I was an insomniac. I had a lot of trouble sleeping during the pandemic. So I was up watching TV at 2 a.m. on the couch in the living room. And we had this office chair that we were holding on to for a friend who was coming to pick it up. And the office chair was just, you know, in the living room next to me, and then suddenly it just turned towards me. The windows in that room did not open. There were no windows open. There was no draft. It was 2 a.m. and nothing was going on. And then suddenly this office chair just swivels and faces me. And I look at it and I go, okay. And then I stayed there and I watched TV. I think my intuition's pretty good, and because of that experience of me, like, not running away, I have a feeling that whatever spirit or spirits were there, I felt like there were 2. Whatever was there was not necessarily malicious, but maybe more playful and just, like, wanted our attention. So the next thing I actually wasn't there for, but I'm just taking my roommate's word for it because she is a skeptic. She was sitting in our living room again with 2 of our friends. And in the kitchen, we had this, like, scarf, I guess, covering the window that we sometimes lift, you know, to let the light in. But we didn't have a curtain, so it was just a scarf that was, like, hanging like that. They all saw the scarf get lifted by the corner as if somebody was looking out the window. It stayed up, and then it dropped. She told me that they all looked at each other, and she just said to them, "We didn't see that," and tried to move on. But what the heck? So, okay, the last thing that I fully remember experiencing, which actually made me question if I was entering psychosis, was that it was like, I don't know, 8 o'clock, something normal. I walk into my bedroom, and in the corner of my room, I see the shadow of a little girl crouched down. But again, for some reason, I was like, I'm not going to run away. It's fine. But I remember being terrified because I was like, what does this mean for me if I'm seeing this? And so then I talked to some other friends who I wasn't living with, and they're like, oh, you know, like, that could be normal. Like, I've seen a shadow like that one. So I don't know. But I thought I was going a little bit crazy. And so I go up to my roommates, who are also all like, yeah, we're living with this thing that keeps calling our names, keeps doing stuff, but we can also just, like, pretend it doesn't exist. And I was like, no, I'm actually starting to be freaked out now, because it's more than just, like, someone being like, hey, or, like, saying, like, Sarah, or like whatever our names were. I'm just keeping it private. It was more than that. Like, things were being manipulated in front of us. So finally, our roommate who lived in the basement, he just decided one day to go upstairs, to stand on the stairs, which is where we usually heard these names being called. He stood there and he said, "Leave everybody alone. You can target me if you want, but we do not want to experience this anymore, so please stop." And you want to know what? It stopped. Months go by, nothing else happened, and then we all moved out because university was over. And to this day, like, we all acknowledge that happened, but there's this, my one friend who's like, I will not talk about it, I'm a skeptic, but I can tell that the reason she won't talk about it is because she's freaked out, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's my ghost story. I have a few more from when I was a kid. I've experienced a few things, which is why I do believe in the paranormal, and I enjoy watching, like, ghost hunting videos, like Sam and Colby and stuff, you know, guilty pleasure. But, yeah, has anyone else experienced anything like this? Because it's kind of scary.
In my haunted house series, I talked about the time that I lived a little bit outside of Savannah, Georgia. And I had gone to Savannah quite a few times when I had my first paranormal experience there. I was around 19 at this time, and I had yet to have my near-death experience. So I wasn't fully the medium that I am now because of that. So my partner at the time and I decided to drive about an hour to Savannah and go to the Moon River Brewing Company. This restaurant was also investigated in one of the Ghost Adventures episodes. I did not know this going in, by the way. I was just enjoying the break of not living at home anymore and being out of that house. And I knew the historic history of Savannah, and I knew the gist that there had been ghost sightings, paranormal activity. I knew that it was haunted, but I really didn't give that much thought to it given what I had just come from. Like, anything was a nice break. This restaurant is now closed to financial issues in 2024. They didn't elaborate in the article, and apparently they don't have any future plans for the restaurant. If you've ever been to River Street, then you know exactly what it looks like, but if it doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and paint the picture. So the river is on the right-hand side, right? Depending on which direction you're coming from. In my case, it was on my right. I would say it was around 8 p.m. The sun had fully set. We were going for a late dinner and we were staying in a hotel nearby. The river's on the right-hand side and then all the buildings are on the left-hand side. And if you've ever been to this city or any big city, you typically know that buildings and apartment complexes and things like that, their windows are reflective. So this helps to not be able to see into people's apartments, businesses, things like that. And the windows act as a mirror. I'm walking down the street. On my left-hand side, they're all the different apartment windows, right? And if you're looking in that direction on the left-hand side, you can see the reflection of the riverfront through the window, right? Acting as a mirror. And I think we were in some like stupid fight or something like that. So we weren't walking next to each other. I didn't want anything to do with her at that time. So she was ahead of me and I was walking a little bit far back. Of course, I'm fuming. I'm thinking it's so fucking annoying. I wish I could go home to my house. At this point, I'm not going to get into that. So I'm walking down the street and I just get this like intuitive feeling that I need to look at the window. I don't know why, but I do. So I look at the window, and in the reflection of the window across the street, I see a woman standing there. And she's wearing this very long dress, and it's the type of dress from the 1700s. It has like the collared neck, and then it kind of flares right here. Her hair was in a high top bun, she was completely covered from her dress. So like all the way up to her wrists, her arms, her neck, and her dress was very, very long and it covered her feet completely. So I'm thinking, oh, I didn't know there was like a Renaissance fair out here. I'm so fucking stupid. Like, I'm still in denial after all these years. The street is pretty empty. I think it was like during the week. It wasn't even a weekend night or anything. Seeing her reflection in the window, I decide to look over in real time across the street. And she's just gone, like just vanished. And then I suddenly am realizing, like, okay, I just saw a spirit. Even though me and my partner at the time were fighting, I ran to her like a fucking child. I mean, of course she believed me. She was like, yeah, this is like a really haunted place. When we sit down and we get seated near the kitchen, have like the circular windows in the kitchen door. She's sitting across from me, right? So we're having a conversation, we're across from each other, and I just keep seeing like movement through the window of the kitchen. Woman in the kitchen, just kind of going back and forth, right? She almost looks like a waitress, but she's never coming out. Like, I'm just not seeing her. She doesn't look like a busser. She definitely doesn't look like a cook. And I'm just getting like a weird vibe from her. Saw like three other couples that were actually in the seating area, and then there were only 2 people at the bar. I'm pretty sure, like I said, it was during the week. I think it may have been like a Monday or Tuesday, and it just wasn't busy at all. So we're just having conversation with our waiter, and, you know, we ask about the history. During the Black Plague, they had to store the bodies in the basement of that building because they literally ran out of room at the morgue, okay? So this is like a historic haunted place. And I just asked him, you know, it's pretty dead in here. Like, where are your other servers at? He's like, oh, I'm actually the only server here tonight. Okay. He's like, yeah, we only have like 1 guy in the kitchen tonight. It's just me, like pretty quiet night. So I stay quiet because I just don't feel like talking about this. You know, I just want to enjoy my cheeseburger in peace for once. Again, I'm seeing movement, and I look to the door, and there she is, just staring right at me. She only stayed there for about a second, and then once I blinked, she went away. I will say she was absolutely beautiful. She was probably about maybe 19, maybe 20. She was very, very young. I didn't get any negative feeling from her. I got the vibe that she just liked to feel a part of, is what I was picking up on. I didn't feel scared or anything like that. It was just a trip to actually see a spirit from that time, from all those years ago, you know, with my own eyes. We later went down into the basement because that's part of the tour, and he said that since we were like one of the only people in the restaurant, we could go ahead and see the basement by ourselves. If you've ever watched that Ghost Adventure episode, you'll know exactly what the basement looks like. But I definitely did not have a good feeling when I went down there. Down into the basement, I could definitely feel, you know, the different energies and the people who had to have their bodies stored there.
Story time of how I found out that my house was haunted back in New Zealand. So this happened in our old house that we still own. This is about 5 generations old. So me and my 2 sisters were home alone this one day. It's me and my sister Ava and my sister Anna. Ava and Anna. I'm looking after my sisters that day, and my mum has gone out to New Plymouth, which is about a 45-minute drive away. So I'm sitting on the couch in the lounge with my sister Ava. All of a sudden, we see my younger sister Anna come into the lounge, and she's like got her hair all down like this. She's like looking like The Grudge a bit. Like we just thought she was being like a bit emo. And she comes in front of the couch, and she's walking super fast with her hair all down, and she's like storming through the lounge. So she comes through, walks straight past us, storms through, and then walks out the other side of the door and slams the door really loud. And then me and my sister, we're sitting on the couch, we look at each other and we're like, what the fuck? Like Ava said to me on the couch, she said, what the hell was her problem? And I was like, I don't know. Anyways, we just shrug it off because we're like, she's just been a little girl. Half an hour goes by and my mum calls us. She's just telling me that she's heading home now, so she'll be home in like an hour, and her and Anna are just going to stop into the grocery store before they come home. And I'm like, hang on a minute, what do you mean Anna? Anna's here. My mum says, no, she's not. She's been in New Plymouth with me the whole day. And I tell you, me and my sister looked at each other and we were like, huh? So who the hell was that walked through the lounge? And we were like, no, Anna's here. We looked around the house, Anna was not there. Lo and behold, my mum comes home about an hour later, and there's my sister with her. She's been in New Plymouth the whole entire day. So, me and my sister never spoke about this afterwards. Until kind of like years later, I was actually telling my boyfriend about it, and he was like, that's so creepy. And then I brought it up to Ava, and she was like, oh my god, that actually happened. Like, yes, I remember that happening happening exactly like that. So look, I don't know if someone can explain what happened there, please let me know, but that is definitely the scariest story that I have so far. I've got a few more scary stories as well, so let me know if you guys want to hear them, but I'm going to get into more story times as well, because I feel like I've got quite a lot of stories to tell that are super entertaining, and I would love to share them with you.
So this is my story time that no one asked for about my closest encounter with a cult in LA. Not my only, but my closest and most involved one. So I have been in LA for about 7-8 years now. I did move to Seattle for about a year during COVID, but I came back, and I love LA. I'll preface this by saying I do love LA, but there is, as everyone knows, a lot of shady and suspicious behavior going on here for sure. So I had just moved here. I had this, big name Hollywood manager, this huge company. I was so excited. The stars were aligning for me. And we start talking about mental health and anxiety and all these things. And he tells me about this specific type of meditation, and everybody does it. He tells me, this person, all of these people that I'm like, oh, well, if they do it, of course I should do it. He invites me to this church, which I'm not a religious person. Please don't come for me for that, but everybody has their own beliefs. Leave me alone about mine. So I agree to this deep meditation, because I definitely do believe in meditation, and it's helped me a lot throughout the years. But this one is very specific, and you have to, kind of be trained in it. So of course I know, ridiculous, but thousands of dollars. So you go to this house and they give you kind of a intro. Your first meeting is like an intro, and they tell you about the way it started. And I'm not even going to name what it's called, because I don't want certain people to come for me. But I was very convinced, I was new here. I just wanted to fit in, whatever, all the stupid reasons. But I go to this meeting, and I meet all these people who, of course, have all these testimonials about how it's changed their life and all this stuff. And I'd heard other people in the scene talking about it, and I was like, of course. So I go, I'm, well, wow, this is really going to help me with my anxiety and tap into a different part of my brain. And as a creative, like all these other creatives are doing it, it's obviously something. So I spend a ton of money, go to this house, have my intro thing, agree to the program. And I had to, which this is obviously, I know I'm going to get judgy comments, but if this reaches anyone outside of the tiny little group of y'all I have here, but and this is very different from my regular content, but I just drove by the house and it kind of triggered me. So I parked and away from it, but, and wanted to share this. So anyway, so once you go to your kind of graduating ceremony, you are supposed to bring a fruit, a white kind of cloth. They give you're alone in this thing, and they basically they hypnotize you is what it is, but they say you're going into a meditative state. I'm pretty skeptical. I'm never really thought I would be susceptible to any kind of cult. I'm very fascinated in it, but or by cults in general and the psychological just draw of them, and I get it. But in my head, I'm like, this isn't a cult, and this isn't that weird, but also I have to bring fruit and flowers, and it just felt I felt a little strange about it, but I was like, you know what? I've already spent all this money. I'm going to do it. So during my basically hypnosis, but meditation, I have the most bizarre, literally hallucination basically, but you're asleep. You're basically asleep. It's really hard to explain, but if anyone knows this specific type of meditation I'm talking about, if you know, you know. And I had the most just wild hallucination, and there's no drugs involved, by the way, at all. They give you a word that you say over and over in your head to slip you into this state, and you're not allowed to tell anyone the word. which the person I did it with afterward, after we decided this was not for us anymore, we shared the word with each other, and it was the exact same word, of course. But that's like against the rules, hardcore. You cannot share your word. But I'm pretty sure we all have the same word. But again, tons of money, tons of time, hours and hours of like training. I have these bizarre hallucinations, and which freaks me out because I would like to think I'm self-aware, even though, mind you, I'm sitting in some random house in Beverly Hills paying tons of money to be slipped into a meditative state. So then I graduate. I start doing this at home. The hallucinations, meditative states get worse and worse and scarier. And I know that creatives have a tendency to have a little more intense, meditation episodes, but they became so graphic and so terrifying, honestly, that I started being like, this is a bad idea. I don't think I should do this anymore for my mental health. So, of course, I tell my manager at the time, who's the one who introduced me to this. His reaction was definitely bizarre. He was not happy. He wanted me to continue it, obviously, and continue. And they also do these retreats and these group meditations, which I will talk about later if anyone even cares. But the group meditation was traumatic, to say the least. It was very bizarre and scary. So then, as I'm trying to decide if I'm losing my mind or if I'm just wrong and everyone in there is right and they're on the spiritual path that I don't understand, whatever the reason is, I start noticing that these celebrities that were endorsing this or doing it, and some of them privately, I'm not going to name their names, obviously, but they're all going through public mental health breakdowns and borderline psychotic breaks, some of them, at this exact time that I'm questioning whether this is right or not, and whether I'm wrong and everyone else is just more spiritual or whatever than me. They all start having these very public breakdowns, substance abuse, all the things that are not supposed to be related to being meditation related. So I basically decide I'm not going to go to these meetings that I had signed up for anymore, or these like group therapy or group meditative things. And I don't do the blank meditation anymore. The person that was doing it with me also stopped doing it, but he was having reoccurring like nightmares, and I am already susceptible to wild dreams anyway. So it was bizarre. Like one time there was literally, which if you figure out what this is called and then you Google it, and I hate to be vague about it, but I'm just genuinely scared because of some of the people that are very involved in this are scary to me, and I don't want to like jeopardize my safety or my life in any way over this random ass culty thing. But I started having very like violent thoughts and so I basically connected that this meditation, in my opinion, causes a lot of these celebrity breakdowns and mental health snaps that we see and we all gossip about and all make fun of on the internet, but it's a real thing. Sorry, my car is beeping for no reason, probably because I've been sitting here. But I would advise everyone, no matter what city you're in, stay away from any kind of group meditation that you have to bring fruit and flowers and a cloth and like talk to a entity that's not God. That's my story, and it was wild, and it took me a couple years to like stop having some of those hallucinations, so that's fun.
Y'all, I did a past life regression a few days ago, and the memories that came back to my conscious mind were so fucking cool. So I have a very, very ancient soul. I haven't been back on Earth for quite a while, quite a really, really long time. But that's besides the point. I just said that to say that this past life in particular was from one of my Atlantean timelines. These were back in the days when the beings of the land and the beings of the sea were living in harmony together. So when I opened my eyes in like this dream-like trance state, the first thing I saw were a bunch of sea creatures and mermaids like jumping around and playing in the ocean off in the distance. I was sad for some reason, experiencing some type of loss. And my wife, my partner, and my child came to greet me. My partner wasn't human. She was a blue Lyran. Like, she literally looked like the beautiful divine beings from Avatar. And although I have had a Lyran timeline myself, I knew that this was here on Earth because my vessel was very humanoid in this life. And another thing that was so fucking cool, bro, is that it was the city that I lived in. It was so beautiful, and it was by the ocean. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen depictions or pictures of ruins that were ancient civilizations, but they are oftentimes constructed in these beautiful sacred geometry blueprints, right? Versus now, when you look down from bird's eye view onto a city, you see a motherboard, you see a computer chip, you see, patterns that are designed to siphon our energy versus patterns that are meant to give you life, right? So the city that I lived in was literally in the shape of a spiral, and I just thought that was so beautiful. We really need to get back to that. Okay, so what made this past life regression so interesting was the fact that I visually re-experienced the turning point in my lifetime that caused my physical death in that vessel, which was very much karmic. I died very young. So I'm still like trying to decipher like the exact messages I saw, I don't speak the same language, obviously, so I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I understood the energy. And every time I don't astral project consciously yet. I mean, I do have lucid dreams and such. I have experienced other timelines, other past lives, but when it's it's the same vibe. I'm not getting words from the experiences. I'm getting energy to decipher, if that makes sense. So I was by this riverbank with these beautiful tall trees, and I was stressed out as fuck, y'all. I was stressed out as fuck. And there were 3 mermaids I had went to go visit. And one of them I kind of fancied, I guess. I liked her. And she kind of liked me back, but I don't think that was ever a thing. I could just tell by the way she interacted with me that I could just tell that there was kind of a thing there. But her two other homegirls had this really like scary dark energy to them, and they were kind of just like laughing at me and swimming around in circles, like toying with me. It was like every question I had, they answered with more questions, but it was also like this underlying energy, because I was clearly stressed out, right? It was like this underlying energy of they were like, you know what you were getting yourself into when you made a deal with us, man. I don't know what to tell you. Just know I left that riverbank like so distraught. Like I literally I was crying, I was panicking, I wanted to throw myself on the ground and rip my heart out and just merge in with the earth and die forever. Like that's how I felt. We've all been there, right? Or maybe not, I don't know. Actually, I hope not, because one thing I learned from this little memory, you do not want to make no deals with no type of mermaids, okay? That shit will fuck you up and bite you in the ass in the end, no matter how many years down the road it is. Because when I tell you this same, it was like a deal, y'all. Like I made a deal with them, and I tried to reverse the deal, and they were like, no nigga, you can't go back on no type of shit like that. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna die, and I did die. I saw this same dark energy that I had like signed myself over to was the same energy that killed me. It was I want to say a few months down the line, right? It was like I was taking a nap. I was resting, and out of nowhere, this shit come back, like the curse come back to kill me in my sleep. I saw it. It was like this, like, you know, kind of like the Dementors from Harry Potter, like, not, like, when they're in spirit form swirling around in the skies, it looks like this, like, dark energy of, like, whoosh. I literally saw the dark energy, like, whoosh down from the ethers and go straight down into my throat, into my, like, down my esophagus, in my stomach, and choke me. And I woke up out my sleep like, ugh! And I was like panicking, gasping for air, my nigga. Like, I was experiencing this shit all over again, experiencing my death all over again. Well, my wife comes in, right? She comes in because she hears me dying, and thankfully she's a healer, and she like drew it out of my mouth. It was like, ah. Like, I don't know if you can picture it, but she like drew the dark energy out, and it seemed like I was okay. Like, we hugged hysterically. I kissed her, right? And right after I like caressed her one last time, I literally dropped back down dead, y'all. Well, I dropped down dead, but the trippy shit is I saw my soul look down at my like dead vessel, and I was actually happy. Like, I felt a sense of happiness and content that I got to say goodbye to my lover one last time. So fucked up. And then I woke up. Like, that was the end of it. That was the whole past life regression, and I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck this shit means. So if you got any ideas, please let a nigga know. But, you know, like, besides the cursing and the dying part, just, like, all the small details that I got to re-experience were so fucking beautiful, you know? Because they like to make it seem like a lot of these ideas are just so foreign, so far gone in the past, or just, unattainable, you know? And that's just not true at all. Wow, I'm getting major deja vu right now. I was supposed to tell this story. Thank you for watching.
When I was 15 years old, my parents sent me to a cult in Colorado, and this is how it went. So they woke me up one Tuesday morning. They were like, you need to get ready. You need to pack your things. We're going on a family vacation. Me and my parents didn't even eat dinner together. Like, we never spent time together. So a family vacation was a little bit sus. I was like, okay, you didn't tell me this. I'm late to school. What about homework? What about schoolwork? And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. We already sorted that out with your teachers. Another really weird thing is that my grandma showed up. She lives in Texas. We live in Utah. So my grandma just randomly showing up out of nowhere. Super duper weird. My grandma gave me a huge hug. Everything seemed really, really off, really weird. But then we got in the car and we started heading to Colorado. My parents said that we were going to be going to Pikes Peak. Little did I know they were dropping me off at a cult.
We got there like super duper late, so we stayed in a hotel that night. Me and my parents got into some heated arguments, some stuff broke out, but the next morning, my dad sits down on the edge of the bed, looks at me and says, "Caitlin, so the real reason we brought you here is because there's a super great family that you're going to be staying with." And that's when my 1 year of absolute horror began. So we get in the car and we drive a little bit, and then we show up at this house. It's in a normal looking neighborhood, just like a normal house. We get out of the car and we go inside, and I immediately feel sick to my stomach. I look around and there's like, I don't know, 10 or 11 different girls sitting at these plastic tables doing what looks like schoolwork. They're all wearing uniforms, collared shirts, and skirts down to their ankles. So these random people take my parents up to their office upstairs, and then they sit me down on a computer to start doing like diagnostic testing for my schoolwork. Like an hour passes by, and then my parents come back down, and then I go with them to start to like go shopping for clothes and whatnot. I had to get like cotton underwear, like granny panties with elastic, so uncomfortable, and I could only buy skirts. No shorts, no leggings, no pants, literally skirts down to the ankles. And then later that night, we met up with a group of girls and the like parents of the household at their church and went to their Wednesday night service with them. I was freaking out the entire time, like legs bouncing. I felt like I was on speed. I was so nervous, so anxious. My dad takes me out to the hallway in the church and starts literally getting so mad at me because he thought I was manipulating them into not leaving me because I was acting so anxious. But my family was abandoning me, so of course I'm going to act anxious. After the service, I go out to the truck with my parents and we start hugging, saying goodbye, freaking out. I'm bawling my eyes out, begging my mom, please just let me stay with a family member. Literally, I'm gonna cry. Literally anybody but this random family out of state, away from home. My parents drive away, they're gone, and I am taken over to a bus, and I sit down in it with like the 10 to 11 girls and the parents of the group home, and we go back to this house. We all slept in the basement of the house in like twin like bunk beds, whatever. So they picked out some bedding for me, whatever. It was really late at night, so we just went like straight to bed. I still didn't know what was going on. We didn't talk about it or anything. They were just like, okay, lights out, sent me to bed. Next morning I woke up. I was so thirsty. I was so dehydrated from crying so much. I like couldn't even blink because my eyes were so dry. So I get out of bed and I go up the stairs to get a drink of water. I already get in so much trouble because I left the room before they came and allowed us to come out of the room just to get a drink of water. We ate breakfast and whatnot. I still remember the first meal I ever ate there was scrambled eggs with salsa. And then I kind of don't really remember what happened from there. I just remember the whole beginning because it was so incredibly traumatic, but I don't remember like the next part. I just have all the different stories to tell of how incredibly and painfully terrible it was. Just some little details. The parents of the group home, their names were Jennifer and David Hermance. It feels like really weird saying that because we were supposed to call them Miss Jen and Brother David, or we could call them Mommy or Daddy. It's literally all. So I don't remember like the conversation or anything like that the next day when I got there, but we did go over a few rules. The biggest rule being silence. So with silence for 60 days, 60 whole days, I was not allowed to speak or make a single sound. Literally 60 days. I couldn't talk to the girls, I couldn't talk to the group leaders, literally nothing. No people at church, like nothing. If I were to talk, I would either get like time added to my silent sentencing, if you will, or I would get swats. Swats, they would cut out an oak paddle and they would drill holes in the paddle so you could like get the airflow through it to make it swing faster. And now, reminder from the last video, it's Brother David and Miss Jen. Miss Jen did not give swats. It was only Brother David that gave us swats. When it was time to get swats, they'd bring you upstairs and they'd tell you to grab your ankles. The first time I ever got swats, I told them I can't grab my ankles, and Brother David was like, okay, we'll grab your knees. And then they tell you, I'm now going to administer 2 swats for blah, 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 blah. I always thought it was so incredibly weird that it was the man of the household, only Brother David, giving us girls swats, telling us to grab our ankles and smacking our asses with a paddle. The girls' home did get shut down though, so it makes a little bit of sense. For the first 30 days that I was there, I wasn't allowed to wear any makeup. I wasn't allowed to use like any hair tools, nothing like that. No activities, no desserts, no drinks, like literally nothing like that. The reason for being on silence was so that we could quietly observe the other girls to see, like, how the house goes, like, what I'm allowed to say, what I'm supposed to say, what we're allowed to talk about. I have to stay silent for 60 days so I can understand what it's okay for me to do. I've never really been the type of person to wear makeup, and I still don't. All I do is curl my eyelashes. So I had my eyelash curler, and I literally hid it with my stuff because I really didn't want to get my eyelash curler taken away, because it was the only thing that, like, made me feel pretty, having my eyelashes curled. So I had to sneak my eyelash curler and secretly curl my eyelashes. While I was there, I was only allowed to talk to my parents one time every month for 15 minutes, but it was on speaker supervised upstairs in the office with Brother David. So I couldn't tell my parents what was happening. I couldn't talk to them, like, literally about anything. If I were to have said something, they would have just hung up the phone. Now, we could have, like, written letters to each other, and we did that, but if they didn't like what we said or they didn't like what our parents told us, they would just mark it out with a Sharpie. So there was no way to tell our parents what was happening to us. So I don't remember, like, what the schooling program was called, but we did something called packets. I think it was, like, ACE or something like that. Now, if you remember for my first or second part, I was talking about how when my parents went upstairs, they sat me down at the computer to, like, start doing testing to place me in my schooling. And I didn't actually think that my parents were going to leave me there. I thought they were, like, teaching me a lesson, like, see, this is what it would be like if you didn't live with us anymore. So I did not care. I was just, like, clicking answer, like I wasn't paying attention to anything. I was just skipping, like, the whole test. I ended up getting placed in the 3rd fucking grade. I am 15 years old. I'm, at the time, 15 fucking years old, placed in the 3rd grade. That's why I learned cursive, though. I forget what their excuse was, but they just literally wouldn't let me retest, and we could only, they're called paces, so we could only pace ourselves at a certain pace, and I couldn't just blow through it to, like, get down and get, like, up to speed quicker. I had to go through, like, at the correct pace and complete all of my packets. So that kind of effed with my schooling. Even aside from, like, our primary school, if that's what you will, our primary knowledge was to just memorize chapters and chapters and fucking chapters of the Bible. If you guys want, I have, like, literally a 3 or 4 minute long video of us reciting something out of Philippians. But we would, like, rush through our schoolwork, whatever, and then we would just practice over and over and over memorizing the fucking Bible. And then whenever we'd memorize these chapters, we would go to different churches across the U.S. and we would, like, recite these chapters, and we would also perform for them. And that was how we were money pigs for Brother David and Miss Jen. When we'd go to these churches, recite the chapters for them, and sing these songs for the people, they would pass around, like, a little plate and do a love offering, so they would just give us money. And they'd, like, say sob stories and whatever. Oh, like, these girls were so troubled, their parents didn't love them, what the fuck ever they wanted to say, so that these people would put money in the plate, and then Brother David and fucking Miss Jen got the money. We didn't get the fucking money. On the topic of them making money, they used to drop us off, like, in the middle of random neighborhoods, like, in the dead winter in Colorado, and have us go to door selling pizza cards. They were, like, these little, like, Domino's coupon cards, and it was, like, buy one, 3 or more topping pizza, get, like, a free medium one for free, some bullshit like that. They would drop us off with a Ziploc bag full of, like, 10 of the cards. We'd go door to door all night long trying to get people to buy these fucking Domino's cards. And then we'd collect the money in the Ziploc bag, and Brother David and Miss Jen would roll the bus around eventually. We didn't know when they were coming back, and they would just pick us back up in the bus, and we'd give the money to them. They used us to make money. They made money off of our parents, because I don't know how much my parents paid, but obviously our parents paid money to, like, keep us there. So they made money off of our parents, and then they used us to make their money. Also, the house that we stayed in, it actually wasn't even their house. It was a family from the church that we all went to. They were deployed. The husband was in the military. They went out of country, whatever. And so they let Brother David and Miss Jen have their house while they were gone so that they could take care of us. We had no fucking bills. We hardly ever showered at home. They would take us all to the community gym that was, like, a couple minutes away. We would all take showers at the community gym so that we didn't have to use their water, so they didn't have a fucking water bill. And we ate food from the food pantry. Super processed, but they gave us measuring cups so we could at least measure, or we had to measure how much processed shit we were eating. Let's talk about solitary. So there was only ever one girl that was in solitary while I was there. I'm not going to say her name, but basically solitary was, like, the ultimate punishment. Like, if you really fucked up, then you went to solitary. So let's talk about how this girl ended up in solitary, for starters. So she talked back to somebody. I don't even remember what the conversation was, but the girl, I'm just going to call her I'll call her F. She had said whatever to something that another girl said, and after she said whatever, then her punishment was going to be swats. Now, F was already 18 years old, so she was legally an adult. She didn't even have to be in that house anyways, but she still had to get swats. I will never forget the horror of this situation. She was refusing the swats. She wouldn't let them hit her. So they were like literally dragging her up and down the stairs. Like there were screams, thuds everywhere, dragging her around trying to hit her. And she was just running. She didn't want them to hit her. This oak paddle that they would do swats with, it was thick. It was a huge solid oak paddle. And if I remember correctly, they literally broke that thing on her ass trying to hit her. When they broke that paddle, Miss Jen kept a ping pong paddle in her purse. So she went and grabbed her ping pong paddle, and then they were trying to hit her with the ping pong paddle. And that's kind of just honestly the whole situation of what ended up like putting her in solitary. She was refusing the swats, she was having an attitude, whatever. So solitary is this little room upstairs, nothing in it but a couple bunk beds. They were just like extras, but they used it as a solitary room. And while you were in this room, you were on silence. You could not speak, absolutely positively could not speak a single word ever. You were forced to wear all black, like head to toe, only wear black. And that includes like when we went to church, when we went out like in public, literally around the house, everywhere, only all black. You couldn't come out of the room. You slept in the room. You stayed in the room all day, solitary confinement. As far as eating in there goes, all of us girls, like at our meal times throughout the day, we would all eat our food first. And what Miss Jen would do is there were a couple times where she'd make like oatmeal before we ate our food. And it was just like normal oatmeal, no seasoning, no like syrup, whatever you put in oatmeal. It was just plain cooked oatmeal. And then she would leave it on the counter. So it would sit on the counter all throughout our like dinner time, whatever time it was. And it would get like solid, jiggly, cold, and like disgusting by the time we were done. And then they would choose one of us girls to go deliver the food to her. So we would take the food up to F, who was in solitary, and we would give her her food. Oatmeal is just an example. One of the other foods that I can think of was canned artichoke hearts. Literally just a can of artichoke hearts. We would just open the can, bring it upstairs, there was your dinner. That was literally all. There were times where she wouldn't eat it, and I don't blame her because that's just so disgusting. Why would you want to eat that? I don't remember what else we fed her, but it was like literally just enough to get her by. What's super duper sad about this is that I think all of us girls were just so like hungry for attention and like approval by Brother David and Miss Jen that we would bully F, we'd make fun of her. We were like begging to be the one to take her the food, to rub it in her face that we weren't in solitary. Like we'd be happy whenever they chose us to take her the food. And oh my God, it is so incredibly terrible. And I literally, after she got out of solitary, because she didn't even want to be there in the first place, like in the girls' home, 18 years old, maybe a little bit older, Brother David and Miss Jen, they were like, okay, whatever, you don't want to be here, here's a bus ticket. They got her a Greyhound bus ticket, and they sent her away, and she had like a super duper hard life. She didn't have any family, she literally had nobody, but she was still so desperate to get out of that house that she just got on the bus. And then after we all left the home, I know a few of us were able to get back in contact with F. She was really going through it, and I don't think a lot of us saw it at the time, but eventually, she's not with us anymore, and I feel so incredibly terrible, because, like I said, all of us were just, like, craving attention and acceptance from Brother David and Miss Jen, that we gave into this, I don't even know what kind of manipulation you would call this, but, like, making fun of her, and, like, putting her on the outside of the group just because it's what Brother David and Miss Jen liked and what they wanted. And I wish I could take all of that back, but that's a whole different thing, not really related to the girls' home, but it's related to the trauma of the girls' home, and it has taken a life. So that's your little solitary story and what happened to the person that was in it and in the girls' home with us. I got 10-minute showers. That included getting into the bathroom, taking your clothes off, showering, getting dressed, and then coming out of the bathroom. Like I mentioned in my previous video, we typically didn't shower at the house. We went to a community gym, so they didn't have to pay a water bill. And when we came out of the bathroom, we weren't allowed to have towels on our heads, because Brother David said that if we had towels on our heads, it would make men imagine us naked in the shower. This included walking outside with wet hair in freezing weather, and my hair would literally freeze to where it was stiff. Occasionally, we would actually work out at the gym, and when we were working out, if we were able to talk to the other girls, Miss Jen said that we weren't working hard enough. So say we were like jogging on the treadmill and we started talking to another girl, she'd make us turn up the like speed on the treadmill. Just gotta add, Miss Jen was built like Gru. Literally built like Gru. We weren't allowed to get up from the dinner table until we had finished our food. And at the time I hated Cheetos so much, but that was my only option for chips. For like our lunch or whatever, and I left like a few Cheetos on my plate and threw it away. One of the girls told on me, and I had to get my plate out of the trash can, and I had to finish my Cheetos. Every morning when we got up, Miss Jen would hand out little white pills. They said it was allergy medication, and it very well could have been, but I just literally don't trust them. Every single girl got one though, and I didn't have allergies, so I don't know why I would have had to take one. This one's not like abusive because other people have the same rules, but we were only allowed to wear skirts. They had to be like below mid-calf to ankles, and they couldn't have slits in them because Brother David said that slits are for sluts. It didn't matter what shirt we were wearing, we had to wear an undershirt, so even if we were wearing a t-shirt, we had to wear another shirt under the t-shirt, and that's even whenever we were like out doing yard work in the hot Colorado weather. We took the skirt thing so serious. Whenever I got there 2 weeks before Christmas, we ended up going on a ski trip with their church, and Miss Jen literally got the material of snow pants, and she sewed us all snow skirts that we had to wear over our snow pants while we were skiing and snowboarding. So we technically slept in the basement on like bunk beds. At one point we had a camera in there. I literally remember falling asleep every single night to the blinking red dot. I think they eventually took it out though, because I'm pretty sure that's kind of illegal to have cameras in somebody's bedroom. After lights out, if you got up to go to the bathroom, you got swats. We couldn't get out of bed in the morning until they came downstairs and told us to wake up. So while I was there, I mentioned in one of my previous videos, we would travel around the U.S. and go to different churches and like sing for them, yada yada yada, to make money for Brother David and Miss Jen. And one day we were heading back to Colorado, and we were going through New Mexico, and it was like really snowy weather and everything. All of us girls were just like doing our thing, like drawing and whatever, and we were just going down the street, and all of a sudden Miss Jen, she's the one driving, she's like, David. Brother David wakes up because he was like laying down in the seats, and then he starts yelling, girls. And next thing you know, we started spinning on the black ice, and then the bus that we used to like drive in, ride in, whatever, literally rolled into a ditch. It's just a regular bus, so we didn't have seatbelts or anything. So all of us girls went from sitting in our seats to landing on our heads because we flipped upside down. There was diesel fluid literally running down like the bottom of the bus, like in between our seats. We were all like stuck under things, laying on top of each other and everything. And our luggage on our trips, they literally stacked and like piled everything up against the emergency exit. So there was no way to get out of this bus. I don't remember how long we were in there because it's all just like a blur now, but I know that like a bunch of pedestrians stopped and they were able to help get us out of the bus. And once we finally got out, we like ran out into the field. It was snowy. It was so cold. Thankfully, one of the guys that stopped, he had like a big like toy hauler, and he let all of us like get inside of his trailer so we didn't freeze to death. I literally remember Brother David screaming that thing's gonna blow because it was catching fire, and it was literally about to explode, and it did. Nobody died or anything. Everybody was okay. Just a little bit beat up, bruised, some minor injuries. Brother David and Miss Jen concluded that the reason we all got into this bus wreck was that God was chastising us for our bad behavior. And our bad behavior was before we like went to like travel back to Colorado. There was this girl, she was an adult. She was over 18, I believe. I don't remember how old she was, but she snuck out and like ran away from the girls' home, and all of us supported her and like helped her sneak out and get away. And when we were at the hospital, like they had to cut our clothes off of us because like a lot of us like couldn't move comfortably and everything. So they cut one of the girls' like bras off of her, and they found a piece of paper in her bra that had a phone number on it. And they figured out that the girl that had ran away from the girls' home had given this girl her phone number. So they found out that we were involved in it, thus them thinking that God was chastising us for our sin. Thankfully, I remember we were allowed to call our parents, and whenever, I was able to talk with my parents, they were freaking out. They were like, don't worry, we're on our way. So by time everything passed and we, got back to Colorado, my parents were literally there waiting for me the night that we got back. They picked me up and took me home. So I guess I just needed to nearly die in a bus wreck for my parents to finally get me out of that girl's home, but it worked out. Everything was okay, and I finally got to go home. I'm going to include a little clip of what Brother David had to say about the bus wreck, though. He talked in front of the whole church, and he said some really embarrassing things and kind of just terrible things. So here it comes.
When it's going on, and I look up and see my wife hanging from the bus. I was pretty hanging by a seatbelt, amen. Well, she's all right. I didn't have anything broken. I start going through bodies and make sure everybody's all right. There should have been 10 crosses on the side of the road, no doubt. But he's also a God of judgment, and his character requires that, and requires he's going to judge sin. And I fully believe that the girls have experienced some of that. It says a good indication that you're saved, because he's going to chastise his own. He's not going to tolerate his children playing around with sin. I'm not going to do it. Girls, you sing. And test them, talking to them. It helps how you do things.
Hello.
Next.
Hello. Hello.
All right. Amen. Sing, amen.
I found some tea last night. So back in 2021, Brother David had texted me. I didn't remember, and I deleted the messages from my phone, but I was going through my iPad last night. I found some. I'm about to green screen the text messages, but I just wanted to preface by saying, first of all, he's talking smack about the girls in these messages, and I think he reached out to me just because, I'm not going to say her name, me and another girl in the girls' home were, Brother David's absolute favorites. The other girl actually still lives with Brother David and Miss Jen. Don't ask me why, I have no clue. But let's read the messages. I'm reading these off of my iPad because the little reply to box thing is, in my way, and I can't record without it. But anyways, so he starts by saying, heaven will reveal everything one day. I pray every one of you that went through the home will be there. That was our main goal. Did you hear that Felicity was hit by a train on March 1st? She was walking on the tracks in the middle of the day, and the train ran her over. I talked about this in one of my previous videos, by the way. Had to be an unalive. She left behind a 3-month-old son. Such a tragic life. This one's a little bit wild. Julie will be the next one that God takes. Stay tuned. Oh my God. Then he says, I also think of all of you girls quite often. I have many regrets, and if I could do some things over, I would. I never had the chance to end things the right way with many of them. I wonder how their lives are, and I pray often for all of you. We tried our best to make it a home, and just not another girls' academy. I never agreed with that model. Then he says, my heart breaks at times when I hear the reports on some of them. They have a sad existence, despite what they portray on their Facebook page. Kind of odd things for him to say, and also he's creeping on our Facebook pages.